Are you ready to finally start embracing your identity with pride?
Hey, this is Steph, and welcome to the Together Moving Forward podcast.
A podcast helping 2S LGBTQI plus people embrace self love and self respect so you can celebrate yourself with pride. By listening to today's episode, you'll discover how to reconnect with your identity and build self love, no matter your age or past. Why embracing the present moment is the key to feeling real pride in who you are. How to turn life's challenges into a path towards purpose, confidence, and authenticity. Today's conversation is about embracing your identity with pride, no matter where you are in life. This episode will inspire you to take your next step forward. Hello again, I'm Steph Vachon, and I'm a human being. Welcome back to the Together Moving Forward podcast. Embrace the 2S LGBTQI plus identity with pride through self-love. No matter where you stand in the 2S LGBTQI plus spectrum, we are all connected. And if you ever struggle to fully love and respect yourself, you're not alone. And this podcast is here to help you. As someone who has navigated my own journey of self-acceptance as a queer, I know the power of hearing voices that reflect our experiences. In this podcast, you'll hear real stories and conversations that leave you with practical tools, fresh perspectives, and the confidence to embrace who you are with pride. To start, I need to say that I'm not a psychologist, a specialist, or someone with a college degree. I'm just a regular guy here to share with all of you and support each other. I will share my journey, and we will all share journeys together. We'll learn from each other how to move forward. Today, I'm so grateful to welcome back to the podcast Alan Lessik, featured in the inspiring short film From Pain to Purpose, where his journey shows how ice skating became a powerful outlet for healing, self love, and embracing his LGBTQ identity with pride. Alan, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you again. It's really nice to see you. And now we're going to talk about something else, but you were my guest on episode 10 last June. So thank you
Wow,
for
I
being
know.
here.
No, thank you for inviting me back. I never thought I'd be back. So, and your program is reaching so many more people. So I think maybe not many people saw number 10, but I know a lot more people are watching you now. So I'm really proud of what you're doing. So thank you for
Thank
inviting
you.
me.
And thank you. And now we'll invite people to go listen to your episode because it was a great one. Okay. So we're talking about a movie that you were
Mm.
in the video From Pain to Purpose, a film by Hendrik Welling. Skating feels less like a sport and more like a form of healing. Can you take us to the moment where the ice became a place of purpose?
Mm. So, about, it's so long ago that it feels like I can't remember, but about 27, 28 years ago, I started developing symptoms of what the doctors later said was psoriatic arthritis. And I had psoriasis like all over weird parts of my body, head and my eyebrows, and very weird. But then one day I came back from the gym and my arm just was swelling up.
Hmm.
And no reason. I just did the same gym workout I've always done. And then over the next week, everything I did would make my body swell up. And I could feel it in my joints. And I even tried yoga, and yoga would make my body swell up, anything. And so I was like being very careful, but I didn't know what I could do. And visited all sorts of doctors at the University of San Francisco. And they were, as doctors can be, very excited that I had this rare disease of psoriatic arthritis. And they kept us like, oh, we don't get to see this very often. But there was nothing that they could do for me. And it's an autoimmune disease. So it was one of those series of diseases that certainly 30 years ago, they don't really nothing that they can do. I don't even know if they can do anything today, I had to settle into, and this is before I was meditating, I just had to settle into, you may not be able to do the things you have been doing or you want to do, and you might not be able to do simple things.
Mm.
And then one day, actually, I started feeling the same pain in my jaw. I thought, oh my God, maybe I won't be able to eat. I mean, it was very scary. I have an old friend who has had something similar, and I talked to her a bit about how do you cope with this and how do you live with this? I mean, that was my question. How do I live with this? I've always done alternative medicine, and I tried some things that didn't work. And I went to visit a acupuncturist, and he did a treatment. And in the middle of the very first treatment, for literally just a second, I felt like everything disappeared for just a second. Oh, I haven't felt good for at this point a year or so. And then we had 3 appointments a week for the first month or so. And after a month, I was starting to feel much better. And a lot of the symptoms started disappearing. So that went on for about 6 months. And at the end, I was still very nervous about what can I do? I was just afraid that if I did something, anything added, it's not even out of the ordinary, just kind of ordinary things, that maybe somehow that would cause it to come back. I mean, it's a stupid idea, but so I was very careful, and then finally went back to the gym and did the lightest exercises I could, and came home and thought, oh, my muscles aren't breaking apart, they're not swelling up, they seem to be working. And well, shortly after that, an old friend of mine said, we've got to go to the gay games. And the next gay games were in Sydney, Australia. So this is about 1999, early 2000. And he said, we need to go to the gay games. And I said, yeah, a sport. And he was like, oh, we'll figure out a sport. And I was coming home one day. Well, another aside is, in this same time period, I broke up with my partner. And it was, breakups are hard to do. And so I remember going by the ice arena and thinking, I always wanted to skate. Maybe I can skate. And the lessons were starting the next week. And so, but in my mind, it's like, oh, I had to check in with my partner about doing this because of the big commitment of time. And then I went home and said, oh, no one's here anymore. Do you want to do this, Alan? And Alan said, yes, I want to do this. So I showed up. This was about 2000 in San Francisco at the time. There were tons of gay men skating, and they all were enthusiastic. They all were going in 2 years to Australia. They said, oh yeah, you can learn, you can learn, you can learn. And so then I started. And my thought was then, and it actually continues to be now, is what will I do next? And I don't know, I mean, especially at that time, I didn't know if this would come back to haunt me. Even now, I don't know that someday it won't come back. And so but my thought was, what do I do now? Like, I have now to pay attention to. I don't have to worry about the future because I can't control that. And the past is done. So what do I want to do now? And so I started skating lessons and discovered that I loved it. I'm not really a beautiful skater, certainly not a beautiful skater in the way you are, but I just loved the feeling. And so I got on the ice. I found that, yeah, I had, especially in the beginning, lots of learning to do. And here I am 26 years later with still lots of learning to do about skating every time I get on the ice. And the ice became my place to display this Alan that I didn't have any other chance in my life to display. In my work, in my other social activities, I didn't have a place to do this. For those who haven't done it, it's a place where there's lots of activity. there's all these tricks and all these steps. Every little step is can be a challenge. And but I always had in this mind of a grace and beauty that I didn't have in the rest of my life. And sometimes when I look at my videos, I think, oh, okay, that's not so graceful or not so beautiful. And then other times I can see it, and oftentimes it's my friends who are going like, Alan, that's amazing.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah, 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 no, I'm a beginner, blah, blah. And they go, no, I can't do that. What? So I don't believe that what I'm doing is amazing. I don't believe it's unique, but I just am focused. And when I'm on the ice, I've learned that I'm on the ice. Like no matter what's happening in my life, through that breakup or through all sorts of other things that have happened in my life, when I'm on the ice, all I can focus is on the ice. Because if you're not focusing on the ice, you get in trouble really easily. So the ice became my expression. And later on, when I started getting more and more involved with Zen Buddhism, that's what Zen Buddhism is about. It's that every moment we have is a new moment. Every
Mhm.
moment. Our body's always changing. In the little conversation we've had right now, something like 100 million cells in our body died and new ones have come in. I mean, it's crazy. And so every single moment, we think we're the same, but something new has happened. Something new has happened. Something new is there. And the ice allows me most of the time to be able to just go with, okay, this is what's there right now. A lot of times I get frustrated. A lot of times I get really nervous about what I'm doing. At the same time, it just is a place where until you said it to me, I mean, I've never thought about it as a healing place. I just thought, oh, this is what I do. But looking back, I can see how it it brought me from where I was to where I am today. And it's in the film. I actually stole this from my skating partner, John Mansell Sancho. So I want to just say this, that he said this first, is that we're on these skinny little blades
Mhm.
that for people who don't know actually have two sides on each of the blades. So it's even harder to deal with. So we're on these skinny little blades on a slippery surface,
Yep.
trying to do something and be graceful and beautiful. We're doing it. And that's life. That life is that we're always, no matter who we are, where we are, what you do, it's always at the next minute could all fall apart. A misstep, a misthought, any number of things. Yet we just keep on doing it. And as we recognize it, when we can recognize that this is what life is about itself, then we just go with it. Then we just make this happen. And if you can make it happen on a slippery surface, I can make it happen on a slippery surface of work relationships,
Mm.
slippery surface of political situations. It's all the same. It's what I can do right now and what's next. And so that was that moment that, again, it was before Zen, but it was a very Zen moment that I just had said to myself, I have this disease right now. I don't know what to do about it, except that except that I must just continue living, and in that living, see what that brings.
How old were you when you started skating?
Uh, I believe I was 48. Yeah.
Okay, so I invite people to watch the movie, and what you're doing, yes, it's amazing. And something I can relate to also is, I mean, yes, I skated when I was young and I skated more than you. But when I look at myself, I think I'm as hard as you're looking at yourself. So I will find everything that is wrong still
Yeah.
today. So what you're doing is more than amazing. And I was watching the movie. I've watched it many times, and I was like, my God, your sit spin and everything you do is like, I think it's fabulous. I think it's really inspiring. And don't think it's not good. Just believe that it is amazing. So congratulations again. I invite people to really watch it. And it's not even this movie. Yes, it's skating, but it's not about skating. And that's why I wanted you to come back, because it's so much more to that. It's about doing what you want to do, and it's never too late to do what you
Yeah.
want to do. And with anything that is going around you or your health or whatever, you always have the choice, and that's what you're doing. So I find it really, really inspiring. So thank you.
Yeah. And I think that's the someone was asking me about this the other day, and it's this, we all have family histories. We all live in a certain time.
Mhm.
We all have all these influences coming at us, things that we're born with. And so life isn't clear to anyone.
Mm.
Well, life is, even for rich people who have great health, there's still stuff that everyone is affected by. And so I really want everyone, and certainly all the queer folks out there, to just know that that's what we have to grow on. And in another way, in Zen kind of talks about that there's multiple entry points to becoming aware, to kind of be mindful in life. There's multiple entry points. You never know where they are. And a lot of those entry points come through disease, come
Mm.
through bad relationships that you've lived through, come through awful situations. They also come through being queer. They come through our experiences as a man or a woman, binary, trans. They come through all these experiences, and all these experiences give us the opportunity of becoming aware and mindful and the choice to live a full life. And so many gay folks, queer folks have felt the hardness of that at some point in their life, and then hold on to it a bit. And it's not that we have to forget that those things happen, because a lot of the hard things in my life are the things that when I was able to kind of work, and some of them I've overcome it, some of them I haven't. There's some family stuff that will carry me forever, I believe. But there's other stuff that I've just been able to, over time, understand that, okay, that happened, but it's actually the entry point for me to start feeling this way, or my entry point to coming into a different way of life and being. So I think that's kind of one of the keys that I learned later on. I didn't know that when I started this with skating, but I went through Zen. When I learned it, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I see how that works in my life.
You bring together queerness, aging, spirituality, and skating. How did you learn to stop separating those parts of yourself and start living them as one?
Mhm. I don't know if I don't know if they ever were separate. Yeah, I don't know if they ever were separate. Um, and then opportunities come up to tie them together.
Hmm.
And, again, opportunities, if you asked me, I would have said, I don't want that opportunity. So I went to those gay games in Australia. I had the most amazing time of my life. For people who are out there who are skaters, who are used to skating at competitions where, when you're lucky, there's like 20, 30 people in the stands watching. In the gay games, there was always 100 or 200 there. It was always packed. And so even it's like as the newest of the skaters at the lowest level, like people were cheering me on. It's like, oh, this is amazing. So that was just this opening of changing, like, oh, I need to do this more. And then Johnny was also there. He lived in Oakland, just across the bay from San Francisco. No, he was living in San Francisco at the time, but we hadn't met before somehow. And we looked at, we said, we want to do pairs. Let's do pairs together. So we started doing pairs together. And one day in the ice rink, the manager called us over and said, you can't be holding hands here. And we said, why? And he said, well, it's just, you're dangerous. And we were just beginning. And so we felt a little dangerous to ourselves. Doing pairs, all of a sudden you realize there's a person with sharp blades on their feet standing within like 2 feet of you all the time. So we had our own feeling of like uncomfort. And so that time was okay. But then a couple months later, it happened again. And this time we just turned to the guys and said, you can't do this. And there were 2 other couples on the ice, heterosexual couple. I don't know if they're heterosexual couples, they were male, female couples on the ice. And we said, no, we're doing the same things they are. We're not dangerous. And he said, I don't care. You can't be doing this. And we were ready this time just to say, no, you picked on the wrong queer boys. And if you're going to insist that we, get off the ice, you were going to hear about this from our lawyers. And he laughed and just said, kicked us off. And in the locker room, we already, because we're both well connected in the queer community, and we already had someone working who was like, oh yeah, I'll get on this for you.
Great.
And so the manager came back to the locker room. He tried to sort of apologize. We said, no, you can only apologize by saying you were wrong. He said, no, I'm not wrong. And so we wound up taking them through, because it was against all the discrimination laws in California and in Berkeley. And so we did that. We actually got lots of publicity about it. And I'm in the end. And, what we won is we won some money for the Gay Games to honor them.
Great.
And we had an offer that we could come back and skate. But the most important thing is that they had to have an announcement in the skating rink saying that we do not discriminate for any reason against any person, including sexual orientation and sexual identity. And if you feel like you're discriminated, here's the number of the state agency to call.
Wow.
So for me, that was just this blending of, I didn't think about blending skating and activism, but when it showed up.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, U.S. figure skating did not have, they managed it eventually. It took them a really, really long time for a sport that has lots of queer folks in it. It took U.S. figure skating many, many, many years. Canada beat us by many years of including sexual orientation in their non-discrimination policy. But we went back and said, okay, we need to include sexual identity. And they pushed back, and they had chosen to have the nationals in the US in a very discriminatory state that had just passed a whole bunch of negative laws against all queer folks, but especially trans folks. And we said, no, you're having this nationals in a place that people don't feel safe. You're not doing anything about that. And we really pushed hard to get them to move. They didn't. There's lots of always reasons for such things. But at the end, I thought, okay, it's not the nationals that's important. It's the policy that's important. Yeah. So then we pushed back and said, okay, we won't make a fuss about where nationals are if you include sexual identity in your anti-discrimination laws, regulations. So we got lots of people. It was controversial because not everyone understands. A lot of folks in skating don't understand trans people and get moved by bad information. In the end, we had lots of support, especially in the adult skating community. And quietly, because they didn't want to do it so loudly, they made the change. And so, again, it was just what's in the moment?
Yeah.
The moment was we have to act. We lost what we thought was the important issue of moving the nationals, but really what was the important issue was discrimination. So we got to work on that. So my skating, yeah, so skating, I didn't plan to become a skating activist. Yet on the other hand, in the beginning, even when I was starting in with the gay games in 2002, it was still an iffy thing. In San Francisco, it wasn't a problem, but lots of other folks from around the world had to like not tell their coaches they were skating. The ISU, which regulates all sorts of things, had done whatever they could do to stop us, the gay game skating. And they had really caused some problems in Australia and in Amsterdam. And so it was never an easy thing to do. And people, it's old history, although history keeps on repeating itself. So U.S. figure skating has fallen to what they claim to be the laws in the U.S. and banned trans people, banned only trans women, not trans men. And it's like so discriminatory on all sorts of levels. You made new regulations, and so it hasn't. There's still things that we need to keep active on and focus on that I thought we'd be done with. And so that part of Alan doesn't give up on these things and is always thinking and strategizing, what can we do and what can we do in the community that we're in. So that's just him. It's not a part of, I bring that to skating. I bring my Zen to skating. The other part of your question, we bring our age to skating.
Mm-hmm.
We're there, we are what we are.
Yeah.
And I do remember in one of the early gay games, there was a guy who was in his 70s who was skating, and he was a beautiful skater. And at that point, he was doing dance because he couldn't do the jumps any longer. And I remember talking to him thinking, can we imagine being 70 and doing this? And of course, I haven't thought about that for a long time until recently. And I thought, oh, now here I am.
Yeah.
And my wonderful coach, who is very clear with me that she has the same expectations she has for me, that she has for her little kids, and that she has for her Olympians that she works with. She just said, no, I have the same expectations, and I'm not downgrading them. What she will say, though, after she saw the Deutsche Welle production, is she'll say, now, Ellen, you're skating like an 80-year-old. You're 72 years old and active, so skate like that.
That's so funny.
And so, but it's a great acknowledgement of, from her. She doesn't know how. She's a couple years younger than me. She's never taught anyone like me before. And so I know it's a real challenge for her. And I drive her to the edge of frustration many, many, many times. But I'm still learning things. And I have learned more things in the last several years since I've been in Berlin and skating than I have in years. And I'm picking up some old things in my latest program. I can do a spiral, which is, people don't know that your leg is up in the air and you're going around. And I had not done a spiral for 10 or 15 years. And it's like, I want that spiral back.
You're lucky I can't do that anymore.
You have to wait another 20 years and then you can do it again.
My legs can't go up anymore and I can't go down. So I have to stay in the middle.
Yeah, I understand. So all these things are just part of, all of us should bring our full selves to everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
Full selves. It's not always easy, and circumstances make some of those full selves hard to bring, depending on where you are, where you're living, your situation. But the more we can bring our full selves to everyday life, that's what it's about.
For someone listening right now who feels like it's too late to become who they truly are, what would your journey say to them?
Well, the first part is you are truly what you are. No, everyone is truly what they are right now. There isn't a wait. There isn't a someday. There isn't a it's too long or I missed it. You are your true self right now. And so the question is, what is your true self? Again, I'll go back to Zen. Zen says we are our true selves. This idea about enlightenment, Zen says we're already enlightened. We're born with the understanding of our connection with others, our connection with the world. We're born with that understanding. We can lose that along the way easily. Our lives can pull us away in different directions. Situations can kind of mute that or tell you that's wrong. But we are born with this. And so it's becoming yourself is what you do every day and every minute. And when you can be mindful that you have that idealization of what you would like to do, as well as the ability, no matter what, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking of like, no, Alan, that's a ridiculous statement because in the middle of a war, that so many people are facing right now around the world, you are more limited.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I know some really wonderful, beautiful Ukrainian skaters who are skating right now in the middle of this war. A friend has to travel 3 hours by train to Kyiv from her small town, which has been bombed, to skate and spends a couple hours there and then goes back. And, you might say that she's crazy, but she has said, okay, despite this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to live. I'm going to do the thing that gives me joy in the midst of horror. There's another in Ukraine, there's another example. There's a Zen priest in Ukraine that every day goes out into the countryside and plants a tree. He has no idea if the trees are going to survive, if they're going to get bombed out, if climate change will kill them all. But every day he goes out and plants a tree and then comes back in the city, and he actually works in a hospital and does other things. That's his answer to the world.
Mm-hmm.
That he has enough of a feeling of the future to say, how can I help this future? I don't even know if I'll live to see. I don't know if I'll live tomorrow. What do I do now? And and for him, the answer is another tree.
Mm.
So we know somewhere and somehow a future is there. Yeah, do it. Whatever you have lurking in you that you want to experience, figure out how to try to do that. I wrote my first novel when I was in my late 50s. I never knew I was going to write a novel. And now I've written 2 books and I've written another one. And now I'm in Berlin, I'm considered the writer, the author. It's a completely other life than I had in the US in that way. I didn't know that was going to happen. I mean, it wasn't on my list. It wasn't even on my list. Like, oh, when I grow up, I want to do these things. One day I wrote a book, and then, one day over several years, I wrote a book. And then I discovered that this is a part of me, and this is a part of me that cannot not be expressed any longer. So when it comes down to, I need to start writing about things. And so whether it's in my blog or whether it's in a book, I now do that. And it wasn't a plan. Skating was never a plan. Being a queer activist wasn't a plan. All these things were opportunities that came up. And I guess what I have is I have enough belief. It's not even a strong belief in myself. It's not well, I guess I do. No, I have a strong belief in myself. I have to say that. But I don't have this belief of like, I can do everything, because I can't. And I don't have, as I said, a lot of things that I do are not things that I feel like I have planned, but in that moment, it was this next step. And so I invite everyone to take that pause to figure out just right now, what is your next step? And it could be, that for people who are ill, it could be just breathing is the next step. It just could be thinking about something, could be the next step. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but once we realize, oh, breathing can be my next step, and we do that, then we kind of naturally go to, oh, well, then what's next? Okay, I did that. That's not so difficult. What do I do next? So that's probably my question. And at 72, soon to be 73, which doesn't make any sense to me that I'm at this age, I still just ask the question of, oh, so what am I going to do? What am I going to do now?
Mm.
What's interesting to me now? What do I want to talk about? When you invited me here, it's like, oh, okay, I wasn't planning to be here. And after being here once, I never thought I'd be here back again. So, but when the opportunity came, I it's like, yeah, I'd love to be here. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to talk to your audience. That's what I have to offer.
And you said something in the previous question. You said, I want to keep learning. And I think that's such a great thing to think about, to keep learning, to have projects, to just keep moving, to always have something planned, to want to learn something else. I think is such the key, I think, for me anyway. And when I hear you, when I see everything you're doing in that movie too, you talk about it, is really to keep learning and to keep doing new stuff and not stop on thinking that it's too late, right? And so I really invite everyone to go watch that movie. I think it's really inspiring. It's great. It's going to be on your blog, right?
Yeah.
And you want to tell us your blog again?
Sure. It's alanlessik.com, ALANLESSIK.com. And yeah, you can see about my books I've written, and you can see the blog. It's funny, I keep on saying, oh, one of these days I have to put my skating things there. But on YouTube, if you put my name in YouTube, you will find a bunch of videos from various skating competitions.
And the link from your blog and the movie is going to be in the description of the bio of this episode, so people can go and just click on it. So,
oh, great, thanks.
Thank you so much. It was great having you again, and we will finally meet because I never know if we actually met, but I don't think we really met in person. But we don't even know.
Place at one point, but I don't know that we met. Yeah.
So we will finally meet in Valencia at the Gay Games at the end of June. So it will be a pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much again.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay.
I really hope today's episode resonated with you. Remember this: you can reconnect with your identity and build self-love, no matter your age or your past. Embracing the present moment is where true pride begins, and even life's toughest challenges can become a path towards purpose, confidence, and authenticity. So take that next step forward because you deserve to live fully as yourself. I'm always looking for inspiring guests for the podcast, and I would love to have you or someone you know share your journey with pride. The world needs your story. It has the power to change lives, and your voice really matters. Reach out and send me an email today. Also, I'm now booking keynote speaking engagements. My talk is From Survival to Self-Love: How I Finally Learned to Embrace My LGBTQ Identity with Pride, and how you can too. Details at togethermovingforwardpodcast.com under speaking. It is already time to say au revoir just for now. Join me every Monday for brand new episodes of the Together Moving Forward podcast and learn how to embrace your 2S LGBTQI plus identity with pride through self-love. Wherever you're from in the world, we are all connected. Remember, solidarity beats hate. The more we unite, the stronger we become. Because at the end of the day, we are all equally human and we all deserve the same rights. Before we close with our weekly positive thought, I want to tell you what this one personally means to me, especially with today's episode. I am constantly learning and growing. For me, this really connects with Alan's story. It reminds me that no matter where we are in life, no matter what we've been through, we are always evolving. We are always allowed to try something new, to rediscover ourselves, and to grow into who we truly are. It's a reminder that there's no deadline to becoming yourself, and that every step you take, no matter how small, is part of your journey. So today, give yourself permission to keep learning, to keep growing, and to keep showing up as your authentic self. Now is the time to put your hand on your heart and repeat after me. Yes, you and me together. This week, positive thoughts. I am constantly learning and growing. Yep, I am constantly learning and growing. From shame, guilt, silence, and rejection to pride, freedom, healing, and love. Together moving forward. Thank you so much again for being here with me today and for sharing this journey of growth and love. I truly appreciate it. See you next week. Ciao. Do you know anyone in the LGBTQ plus community who feels disconnected from their true self, wishing they could embrace their identity with confidence and pride? Share this episode now and help them step into self-love and self-respect so they can truly celebrate who they are with pride, feel empowered, and make a real difference in our community.